Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Life Chat with Vivandvil. As we said in the last segment, this is a two-part segment, and we will continue our conversation with Janelle and Jacqueline about finances. I hope you did receive a lot from what they said before last week. So now we're continuing our two-part series right now.
Yeah, and I think they had so much information the last time, and I know we can only get more from them. So I am so happy that they agreed to continue this conversation. So here we go, audience. So if you remember, Janelle is our mortgage lender, and Jacqueline is our advisor on managing your budget. All right. Welcome back, ladies. So nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too.
Good to see you, too. Yes, good to be here.
Jacqueline, you mentioned in your introduction that you did a course where you would teach individuals how to manage their money. Is that something that you still do, and how could people sign up with you if they wanted to do this course before they go see Janelle to get their mortgage?
Well, I've actually taken, I took a few years off from doing that, and I'm now starting again to put some energy in that. I have two amazing daughters that they tried to do everything that was earthly possible. And so I spent a lot of time with them and learning a lot about college financing also. So I can talk to you about that. But at the moment, I haven't started back up fully. So I don't have that in place at the moment. So I'll keep you posted as to when I start classes and when I start meeting with people again.
Okay, and do you have, where would they find your information? How would you advertise? Do you have
I am not at this time because I don't want to make people think that I'm ready to be in there fully, and I had taken some time, and I'm coming, you're catching me at the end of my sabbatical. So when I get my feet fully back into the game again, then I will have that information available.
Wonderful.
We have to get you back on and talk about something that you can able to give our audience your contact information in regards to. I like that too about college financing. That's really interesting. I think that would be really good for people who are starting college and families who have to deal with it for next year. You know. Yeah. So I think that would be really good.
Right. Yeah, I want to know that. Do you have the child take out a student loan, or do you take
Yeah.
Those are some really good information, and thank God I don't have anybody going in that direction at the moment, but Vivian, they're coming up, and Janelle
has girls.
She has the answer. She has the answer, so you don't have to worry about that. But that's another hot topic.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit about that, either of you?
Which
student loan, yes or no?
It depends. It is all very dependent on who the family is. Some people have taken out, started from day one, they started to save, those 529 plans and stuff like that. And some people don't have that opportunity to be saving anything. And so it all, at the end of the day, and you want your child to have the best, but there might be restrictions. People might have to start out very small and do community colleges, and but there's also merit scholarships, and there's also a lot of the Ivy Leagues. They will do they will fully take care of the financial needs based on your earnings and stuff like that. So there are many options. You just have to know what's available. Sometimes your students are so good at sports or other things that they can get a full rise. Those things are not the norm. So we wouldn't bank on little Joe, getting a scholarship, a full ride, but it's very dependent on the individual families, and you have to make a plan based on where you are. And I can say this because this has been my experience. There's also something called grace and favor by God to open doors that if you have that on your side, that's something that I have benefited from. But I didn't just sit back and said, like this, I can't. I work a plan, and then I didn't ask my kids to take any loans, but I would sometimes, that's the only option that you have. And then you do that, but you do it with the understanding that you're not going to just take money to hang out at college. You're going to take the necessary money for tuition or housing or stuff like that. You're not going to have mad money, so to speak, to keep up with the Joneses. So there are some conversations that needed to be had. Again, it goes back to your relationship with money. It really does matter how you view money. And so, yes.
What about those individuals who refinance their home to use that money for, get their children in school? So is that something that you guys would recommend? That's a good thing, because some people I know, they refinance their home, take the equity out of the house to send their kids to school. What's your thoughts on that?
So I am a very big advocate, I have to say, for not overpaying for college. I really, everyone has a different perspective on this, so I don't want, I do have a pretty strong opinion about not overpaying for college. Just like budgeting for life, I think there's a strong probability that even if you get your associates from a community college and then get your bachelor's for the next 2 years, no matter what school you go to, I think you have a strong probability of doing well if you're going to do well anyway. So I am very big on not overpaying. My daughter goes to community college, and then she's going to go on and get her degree from a reasonably priced university. But there are some people that you just can't talk out of going to a particular school that they've had a dream for their child to go to. So it's all about their background and who they are and what they want. So I have done I've had financial planners actually send their clients to me to cash out money to pay for tuition. And to be honest, I would have never paid that much money or cashed out that much money on my home to send my child to college, but to each their own. And if they're going to borrow, it's not a bad way to borrow, because you're not going to get a lower rate than you are on a first mortgage. So that's my input on that, without trying to give my opinion too heavily.
No, thank you. We all, we all have our beliefs, so
yeah.
Hey, I strongly admire the person who will stand on what they believe and work it, so thank you for saying that as well. Now, I have a question for you, Jacqueline. And again, going back to your beginning, when you introduce yourself, you mentioned that the Bible has over, did you say 2,000 references to money? And one of the things that I find, and I am not sure about anybody else. I don't know about, you know, people's Christian persuasion and those who are listening, where I find that a number of Christians themselves usually find themselves in a jam when it comes to money, because they have a belief that because they are a Christian, then things will just open up to them. Mark you, that is good. That is a good belief, that is correct, that can happen. However, they don't equate Christianity with responsibility in spending. So I'm glad that you mentioned that the Bible thinks that this is important, because there are over 2,000 references that talks about that. How can you, in a nutshell, just talk a little bit about that to kind of put people straight on their thinking, that as a Christian as well, you need to be responsible with your finances?
One thing I would say quite often happens is for lack of knowledge. You know, there's a verse that speaks about for lack of knowledge, people perish. And I think that it's important to understand that no matter who you are, you have to live in, this is the world that we live in. And if you don't know how to conduct yourself, if you don't know the best practices to have a successful life, then God has some principles, and he is not going to go each time against them. If he has given you hands to work, he's not going to send a raven to feed you every day when he has given you hands to work. So I think that it is the misconception that there is an easy way. You know, there's a gravy train. You become a Christian and you get on this train and life will be easy. It is contrary to what the Bible says about who we supposed to be as citizens of this world. And so, and the responsibility that we have to our family. You know, there's some very harsh words about people who don't work and who don't take care of their families and stuff like that. So we have an obligation. And again, there's the whole concept of living your life in moderation. And so if you're going to live your life in moderation, then you are not going to misspend your money. You're going to find the best ways to use your money. And if you have a problem with it, you get help, you know, because we need help. All of us need help at some point in time. And so to not put certain things in place, you're leaving yourself open, and you're leaving your family. If you're going to leave anything, inheritance, you know, a godly person leaves an inheritance for their children. And not all of us are, because of the systematic racism and other issues that we have, will necessarily start out on top to be able to do that. So I am very mindful of social determinants in our lives, but I would say that people have a responsibility to do the best that they can and to gain the knowledge that they need to gain. There's, you know, we have no excuse. This is the informational age. And so there's lots of information that we can get. And we should take opportunity to get that information.
Good. Thank you. And this is why it's important that as soon as you get both feet back from your sabbatical and stable. These are some classes that we want to promote and recommend so that people out there will, you know, be able to attend. I'm sure it's going to be more affordable than maybe going out there to a university to get this, but they need the knowledge. We all do need the knowledge. Now, I for either of you, and I don't know, Janelle, how well you will answer this, or, you know, can answer it, balancing your checkbook. Now, I am horrible, absolutely horrible when it comes to balancing my checkbook. What do you recommend as, to people listening about the importance if they write check again? Because, I've had my checkbook sitting down for a long time, yet I'm spending because you don't have to, use a check most times anywhere. But what's the importance of balancing your checkbook for our audience?
Wow. That is a really tough one for me, considering that I try not to write checks. And now, even like with my teenagers, I notice she's very conscious of what comes in and what goes out, but it's all on her online app. So she's looking at where her balance is constantly and making sure, things are correct, but there isn't the reconciliation that we're used to from, I'll call it our old school way of managing our money. So that's a tough one.
Maybe,
I don't even really know how to answer it.
maybe Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Janelle. There's no real checking balancing account anymore. But I think what is most important is that we, as your daughter is doing, that we keep an eye on what we're spending and what we're bringing in. But something I have done with my girls from the time they started to make money is we set a budget. And I do bake pots of things. Like they know they have to take out 10% for offering. They want to do 20% or 30% for savings, and the rest is for spending, or so we have percentages. And so we work with that, because one thing you don't want to do is to tell teenagers they can't have spending money to do whatever. So we agree that you can buy any stupid thing you want to buy for 10%. You can spend up to X% on this, and then the percentages. And then it is important. I mean, there are plenty of good apps out there that young people are using that will tell them, how they're going or not going well. And then you always come back to those percentages that tells you, like, this is what I have and this is what I don't have. So I think that, to me, is probably going to be the future of the balancing the checkbook. It's those apps, and most importantly, it's determining what your budget will look like up front.
And can't I just keep the information in my head? Okay, I think I spent $20 the other day. I think I have 40. I don't think they took out my insurance yet, or my credit card payment. So I think I have $40 to spend.
Why put yourself through so much stress and worry when you can know for sure what you have? And I am one of those people who I have my basic budget set out, but I don't check things because I follow my budget very closely. I never keep cash unless I have it for a particular purpose. If I don't have it this month in my budget, I will discipline myself to wait till next month. Or if I spend it this month, then I know I can't spend it again next month. So I have disciplined myself over the last 40 years to do stuff like that.
Right.
But I don't let my kids do that because they don't know yet. So it takes time to get to that point.
And one big thing I recommend is trying to get as many things on auto pay as you can, so that it keeps your credit intact. You're less likely to overlook, because we do the calculations in our head and hope that we didn't miss anything. Auto pay does help with that. But yes, still, I think the future somehow is just the ability to check balances every day and keep track that way is a big thing. But auto pay would help maybe not miss some things.
So that's vitally important, especially in anything that you want in life. And I'm like Velma sometimes. I don't, well, Jacqueline too, I don't carry cash. My husband always yell at me for that. I don't have cash. But because of the fact that I need to see everything and I have to make sure I don't spend extra, the kids always like, can I have? And then the money go on. I'm like, I have it. But, you know, that's really good information, because with that too, it's able to see, you know, further what you want in life, what you want to accomplish in life. If you want to buy that house, you want to buy that car, then you can able to show that credit. You can able to show that you can able to balance a checkbook and going forward and do the things that you want to do. And that's good that you guys teach your children so young. But what is the age that you recommend that you start this process, Jacqueline? Do they start from their first job, or do they start college? What do you recommend?
I think, like, I'll say this, I think like sex education, you should be teaching your kids financial education, giving financial education age appropriately. And so I think that it's important that when Jane starts to get those birthday gifts of money, sometimes people will give money, I think that you start having conversations with them, and you start doing the buckets, you have this pile, or you have, whatever, figuratively speaking, you want to break out your the money, that you start to help them to see, these are the important things that you do with your money, and let's talk about what you want to do with this money. And some of your long-term goals, because you might want to buy that extra sparkly dress that I will not be spending money on as your mom. But if you want that dress and you want to invest in it, okay, well, let's put aside some money for that. And that evolves into all kinds of other projects that the kids might want. There's nothing wrong with your kid helping to save for college. If they are getting lots of cash from those very generous grandparents or aunts or uncles, why not have them invest in that also? Why not start some kind of investment vehicle for them to get where they want to in life? So I think you start age appropriately, and you progress as they get older.
Thank you. That is so wise. So either of you, in general, what percentage of your income you think should go towards savings?
I think, if possible, so it's really hard to say, but generally I would think 20% in savings. Everyone does have different income, so it's really hard to say, because how expensive life is. I think I see some people like just scraping by, so 20% is a really large percentage. But you could even start small, and then as your income grows, increase your percentage too.
Yes, I'd say, off the top 20. I also say to people, there are various types of savings that you're engaging in. You're engaging in retirement, which is a type of saving. You're doing your emergency fund, which is savings. You're doing savings, short-term savings, like if you're going to be buying gifts for your family, that's another pocket of savings. So think holistically about the types of savings that you want to have in your life, and then you work with that. And I would also recommend that as many automatic savings come out as possible, because you don't miss it if you don't see it, but you miss it more when you do see it. So if you can have your employer take out money for your direct deposit and put it in a savings account, or if you're doing your 401k, or if you you know, whatever you're doing, if you can automate it, that helps a lot also.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Yeah, great, great. I'm telling you, I could spend the entire evening talking to you ladies, getting such great information as we're trying for our audience to get. And if our audience have questions, I'm going to ask them to just put it in, text it to either of us, and then we can get the answers to them. So, you know, this is very interesting. And how are you on time, Janelle?
I'm okay.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask this question because I've heard it before, and I'm just asking, purely asking to get a sense of it. That one of the things that we have heard, that I have heard more than once from, is lending to minorities. Now, is there a structure in the lending industry you think that create barriers to minorities accessing funds or accessing like mortgages, or they're going to the wrong places?
I don't think there's barriers per se. There's not supposed to be, right? So it does go back to, I think, education, educating early and as much as possible. And in my opinion, it's probably the credit education that is needed, from what I see. So it's a really tough question to answer, but there's not supposed to be lending disparity. And I'd have to pull more information to see if there truly was. But credit scores are the key to lending. So if you're in a lower credit score bucket, then there might be barriers there. It is a tough question for me to answer.
Right.
Because
Right.
I don't track it or anything. I know that there are a lot of regulations in place that do track it. They did recently make and it's not just for disparity in lending, it's for like a lot of things, and a lot of it is census information. But we do have to, we have to decision files quickly and just to give reasons for why files were either approved or denied or whatever, and it's very highly regulated. But there's Equal Credit Opportunity Act regulations we have to follow. So it's tough because lending does, number one, go back to credit, and then it goes back to income and debt. So the more education we can get out to the community as a whole, the more successful lending will be for everyone.
Right, right. Have you heard that, Jacqueline?
So so this is a hard topic for me to speak on because I spend my days looking at different inequalities and looking at the history of housing in this country and redlining. And I look at people who are economically and socially and otherwise underfunded and all kinds of things. But that's not what I'm here for today. So today I would say that, right, technically it starts with the income and the credit scores, but so often minorities are the ones in the low paying jobs and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and it's a snowball effect. I'm not making excuses, I'm stating facts. And so people do what they do to survive, and then but that isn't the way that they're going to make it. You know, like if you're making $9 an hour, then of course you're never going to own a home because, and you have kids, how are you going to take care of all the life necessities and still keep a home, especially if you haven't had the privilege of having a, you know, resources given to you by family, or, you know, there's so many different inequities and stuff like that. So it's really hard.
A lot of, yeah,
it's really hard, and it is so yeah, I'm looking forward to the day when it is not as bad as it is right now. Let's just put it like that. And I applaud the efforts by various people in society, including the government, to make this something that we can help improve the lot of people's lives. But it's a very complicated and very historically difficult and hard reality.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of variables involved. And
Yes.
as you say, as think from the answer from both of you, it's like a catch-22, because credit drives what if you will get a loan. You know, so if your credit is bad, then nobody's gonna take that chance. No sane person
Exactly.
is gonna take that chance.
Of course.
However, your credit score may be bad because you lost your job, which doesn't necessarily mean one race, but several people have come where they've lost their jobs during, you know, something like the pandemic, and they fall behind, and they fall behind on their mortgage, they fall behind on their car payment, which decreases their credit score, which makes it again even harder to get a new mortgage, a new loan.
Yes.
It is a vicious circle. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Vivian, you have anything more that you have for these wonderful ladies?
No, I think we covered it well.
And right, and I wonder if they would come back. I mean, this is just a wealth of information that you have shared with our audience out there, and I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to just ask you guys for a parting something that they can hold on to in summary of what you have discussed, what we have discussed, and your contribution. What is something, a parting advice that you have for our audience?
I would say that you and your family matters. And while it is not always going to be easy, you're in a country where you can do better. And it might take time, and you are not moving at the same right pace as everybody. You are not measuring yourself up to everybody. And it's hard not to do sometimes. But I would want to encourage people to take hold of their finances. Finances are very important. It determines so much in life. And so I would try to empower and educate myself and get the help that is needed, because there are people out there who are willing to help, and there is hope, but you have to get the help to move from where you are at this point in time. So yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So mine is similar, but I have to say again that credit matters. So educate your children as young as 12 or 14. That's when you can start to have the conversation about how money works, I think, and they can start to understand it and use that. And then as far as we were talking about when people get into bad situations or things happen in life, there's always redemption. And I always say, I will talk to anyone and help anyone as long as they're committed to helping themselves. So if they're committed, I'm committed, and I will stay committed forever. And I say to them, if you know, if they come to me and they want a pre-approval to buy a home, and I have to tell them that we can't do it right now, I just say no is not forever. It just means not yet. So there's always progress that can be made. And I think that anyone can be a homeowner if they're disciplined, persistent, and keep their eye on their goals.
Great, wonderful.
Well, thank you, ladies. This has been a great show. And as Vilma said, this is really good information, and we real definitely want you guys back on, maybe individually, because being that you guys have so many different things they could talk about. You know, Jacqueline, you could talk about the college and break things down from a biblical standpoint. And Janelle, you have so much to talk about those 10 commandments and more in regards to you know, obtaining a home and mortgages and so forth, and refinancing and everything that has to deal with that whole world. So we really appreciate you guys for coming on and doing this segment of this 2-part segment with us. We really definitely appreciate it. So until next time, this is Life Chat with Viv and Bill.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.